if emotions are stuck in the body, like, do you have stress incontinence? Is there things that trigger that more? Do you have to dash to go to the loo? Do you wet yourself when you cough, sneeze, or laugh? Those kind of things. And also a lot of stuff around, are you holding on to like trauma anywhere in your body, particularly in the pelvis? Like I say, birth trauma, sexual trauma for women is more prevalent.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. Welcome to the latest episode of the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with a remarkable guest, Jill Robinson, the owner of the Organic Pilates Studio in Northeast England. Jill is a specialist in women's health and has recently released an insightful new book, The Embodied Core, a women's guide to easing back and pelvic pain naturally. In this episode, we delve into the unique aspects of women's back and pelvic pain and how they differ from those experienced by men. Jill shares her expertise and practical tips to help women find natural relief and improve their overall well-being. Stay tuned for this enlightening conversation. Jill Robinson, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Lee. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Jill. And it's good for me to be on the other side of the microphone because obviously I've been on your podcast twice. So it's good to have you on as a guest. Do you want to quickly just give a little shout to your own podcast before we get going?
Yes. So our podcast I do with Dan, it's called the Supernatural Health Podcast, and it's on Spotify, iTunes, and all of those places as well. But you can find it on my Instagram page as well. So
cool. And we'll cover that at the end as well.
Fab.
So Jill, to kick things off, could you share your journey into health, your academic and professional background, and what motivated you to write the book, The Embodied Core?
Yeah, so I started off teaching, doing dance when I was very young, and I always did like lots of dance. And from that, I ended up doing my exercise to music qualifications and all of those kind of things. And I used to just teach fitness. I used to teach step and aerobics and all of that kind of stuff in the late, like the early 90s onwards. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And it was more for my own beer money, really, to go out with at a weekend. And then I used to work full time as well. And then my full-time job, I used to be a statistician, believe it or not. I had a very, very good, very analytical job as a statistician for the government, for the Department for Education, and an analyst, can't even say the word now. And I did that for 15 years. And my job started to get more and more in depth. And as it got more and more in depth, I had to pull away more from the teaching side of stuff and the fitness side. And then I had my own kids, and I realized that not only was my own health getting worse, and I was starting to really stiffen up, my joints were getting really bad, I was putting on weight, all of those things. And I had a really stressful job as well. And when you've got two young kids added into the mix as well, I realized that I needed to get back to it. What I really loved was teaching other people as well how to be fit and healthy. So I got to a point, in the universe always gives you a point of where you have to go one way or the other. And I got to a point in my life where my mom had just died, and the job was like, they were restructuring, as the government always does. It's always restructuring. And I just thought, you know what? I hate it. I actually hate where I'm at, what I'm doing. And I really didn't love my job anymore. And I thought, you know what? I want to go back to fitness. And at the time, I'd kind of maybe I'd had this kind of feeling for about a year beforehand. And I'd gone and done all my Pilates qualifications, which took about a year. And so I was newly qualified. And hated my job, and I asked them if I could take voluntary redundancy, and they said yes. It's like, yeah, when you ask the universe, things happen sometimes. I never thought they'd let me have it, but basically I had kind of a year's worth of wages. So I said to my husband, you know what, I'm going to just go and see if I can like make my living as a Pilates and fitness instructor kind of thing. And he was like, okay. And I was like, I don't care what if I end up stacking shelves in the local co-op. I just don't care. I just wanted to be out. So that was that. And then 10 years later, I'm still here doing what I do. So I set up my own, and you know how, like I was just saying, the universe gives you things. So as I was, so I'd left my job, and within about a month of leaving my job, one of my friends who had her own business was looking for premises, and I happened to be chatting to her saying, oh, have you found somewhere for your business yet? And she was like, no, but I found the perfect place for yours. And I was like, oh no. So I went and had a look at it, and I was thinking, I am not ready to take this on yet. But it was the perfect space. And I was like, I don't know if it's the right, that was the right space, but I didn't know if it was the right time. But I just went for it. And I opened my own Pilates studio within about 2 months of taking redundancy.
Wow.
And so like not knowing if I could afford it, not knowing if people would come. But like I said, 10 years later, I'm still here. My studio is going strong. And it was from that, really, I set it up. Obviously, I used to teach dance and things like that. So kind of like I taught Zumba for a while and got back into like teaching people how to move properly. And that's what Pilates gave us. And then I wanted to go deeper. So that's when I did all the check qualifications. That's when I met you. And then from there, I've just continued learning, then really connected into the breath work, because Pilates, the central thing of Pilates is breathing. So then I qualified as a breathwork facilitator just after lockdown, did a really 400-hour comprehensive course. And then I did another course to learn how to teach breathwork, so I train other facilitators now. And what I realized was, like, I really love teaching women in particular, like how to get fit and healthy, but also how to navigate all the hormonal stuff that we have going on, and just how to live a life where we're not constricted by what society thinks we should be or how we should be in life, and just really to get more freedom in movement and in our lives as well. So that's where I'm at today.
So what motivated you to write your book?
Oh yeah. So my book, I realized as I was working with women that we've been given a bit of disservice by the medical, the medical world, in that women weren't really included in any of the research. It's getting better now, but still, when you look at like midlife women, definitely there's no research around midlife women. And the bits of research that are now coming through, when you look at it, so many women that I was working with who had pelvic pain, back pain, and we're working with them and seeing how it affects their lives. When you actually look at the research, they were going to the doctors, and the doctors were saying you need to lose weight, you need to not be sedentary. And yes, that's right for men, absolutely. And doing those things will help, absolutely. But for women, the research is actually really different for back and pelvic pain. And it's a lot more to do with how you breathe, your bowel health and your bladder health, and stress response, and kind of like the energetic systems. We hold so much trauma in our pelvis around things like birth trauma, sexual trauma, and there's the energetics around there as well. And that's what don't really look at or don't really understand. It's like they think our bodies are a mechanical thing that can be fixed, like as a car mechanic can fix a car, but not. We've got this spiritual, energetic body as well, and that holds tension, and the body keeps the score, right? So it's like working with all of those different energies as well as the physical, but it's much more to do with the emotional, the spiritual, and the mental as well. And that's what I was getting the same questions over and over again, and I realized I was saying the same thing. So that's what prompted me to write my book, really base it on midlife women's health, but it can apply to anybody as well. But really looking at yes, there's the mechanical aspect, there's the physical, but there's also stress, like sleep, nutrition, and also the energetics, like the chakra system, or how you move energy through your body, where it gets stuck, and all of that kind of stuff as well. So I tried to write a book that was like fully comprehensive from taking into all those things into consideration.
So would I be right in thinking, because you were getting lots of questions around those kind of subjects, that you thought, well, if little old me is getting asked a lot of questions from, your clientele, how many other women that don't live in the northeast of England have the same question? Was that kind of your thinking around the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you go down the medical system route, you've got to say like pelvic floor problems and continence issues. So many women have continence issues, and firstly, people don't like to talk about it because it's embarrassing, and who wants to talk about that? But when you go into the medical model, it's like, right, you've got to go through an exercise program, which is very similar to what I teach anyway. But then it's very much like operations and things that can be very life-changing. And I think like there should be another way forward. And obviously the things that, like it's you need to fix it with an operation or have this thing inserted. And it's like, actually, let's just go back a bit and let's just see, how does your body feel? What's setting it off? What's making it worse? And it's that kind of that extra bit that the medical world, I think, forgets about. And that was just, when you go online and have a look at all of these problems, there's so many women with them. And it's quite scary, really, that they're not being offered that extra bit. It's a very structured, it's very linear, the NHS, and women's bodies aren't linear.
Yeah, just to add to that, what's becoming evident now is that not just in the UK, but in most Western countries now, the medical system is now just medical staff following algorithms. If you get A, you give them X. If you see B, you give them Y. If you see C, you give them Z. There's not like, there's no consider, oh, okay, I'm seeing A. Why is that person presenting with A? Right? Because what's the end goal? If you're just following algorithms, you don't need a person to do that. AI can do that. Right? So I think we're less than 5 years away from there being no medical doctors, because it's just going down that algorithm route. And if the doctors that are currently in place don't follow the algorithm, they lose their medical license. Even if the thing that they did saved someone's life, if they had let the person die because they followed the algorithm, they would be absolutely fine. But if they go off the algorithm and save someone's life, now they're going to lose their medical license for doing so. That's the reality of the world we live in right now. So it's important that there are people like us around that do treat the body holistically. We do treat it physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and we look for the root cause rather than, oh, let's just look at an algorithm. Because what's the point in having a doctor if you can just go onto a search engine yourself, right? Because that's all they're doing, really. They're just following a search engine, which is really sad. And to a degree, it's not their fault, because they're told, I think in the UK they get 7 minutes. I think in the US it's 5 minutes per patient. It's like, how on earth do you help someone? And I know in the UK, it's now a rule that when you go into your doctor's office, you're only allowed to talk about one symptom that you have, even though you might have 5 symptoms and they're all completely linked and they're all caused by the same thing. Or they might be caused by completely different things, but you can only talk about one because they've only got time for one.
It's really scary that we're heading that way. And I think that's, for us, we're seeing the kind of outcomes of that system, because we're getting to obviously the clients who are coming to us are the ones who are at the end of the, I get a lot, you're probably the same, who've jumped through all the hoops and ticked all the boxes, but they've still got that thing there that hasn't been fixed, or the only alternative is surgery. And it's like looking at things like, how much water do you drink? What's your nutrition like? And people are going to be, why are you asking that when I've got a bad back? But it's really important that these things can have a massive effect on the pain in your body and where you're feeling it physically. Even if it doesn't seem connected somehow, it's all connected. Everything is connected.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know you know this, but in the questionnaires that we both use, we're asking people to talk about their stools, right? We need to know what kind of stools they have, how much, does it smell, does it float, does it sink, does it have any, can you see anything in it, what color is it? We need to know all that stuff, because that gives us a good window into what's going on internally. And it's very, very important if it comes to things like pelvic and back pain, right? Which we'll come on to in a moment. So that's probably a good time to move on. So in your view, what would you say are the main drivers of back pain in women?
Like you say, constipation, just being stuck, and constipation can also be an energetic thing of, stuckness in life. Are you stuck in a life that you don't really love? Are you not living to your purpose? Is that manifesting itself in your body as constipation? So definitely that would be one of the things I'd be asking, like you say, all those interesting questions about stool health, bladder health as well. Bladder is water, linked very much to emotions. So, if emotions get stuck in the body, like, do you have stress incontinence? Is the things that trigger that more? Do you have to dash to go to the loo? Do you wet yourself when you cough, sneeze, or laugh? Those kind of things. And also a lot of stuff around, are you holding on to trauma anywhere in your body, particularly in the pelvis? Like I said, birth trauma, sexual trauma for women is more prevalent. So all of those things build this picture of swirling energy. And it's I can't describe it because it's not a physical thing that you can describe, but you can sense it, can't you? When you get and I don't necessarily have this I have men clients as well. And it's really interesting. Men are very much, doesn't Paul Chek say men are dump trucks or something? Women are Ferraris. And it's really like that, because men, you can say, you can see a man got a bad back, you can say, right, you need to do this, this, and this, and they'll do it. Whereas women, it's a totally different. It's different. It's just you can say to them, yeah, I can see this. You need to be doing more physical, getting some energy in there, in terms of, movement. But actually it's that energetic flow that you need to recreate. And sometimes it's a lot as well. A lot of women I work with have really bad breathing mechanics. So it's getting it all fine. It's more fine tuning than what it is with men.
Yeah. So it sounds like, to sum up what you're saying, is that there's potentially more. I was just going to say emotionally, the main kind of emotional difference between male and female. But obviously the other thing that is tied to that to a degree as well is hormones, right?
Yeah.
Because they are two definitively different things between a man and a woman. Yes, there are, you might get men that are more like women than other men who are, your alpha male kind of thing. But I think it's fair to say that women are more emotional beings than men, right? We are dump trucks, really. Not to say that we don't have emotions that affect us too, because we do. But yeah, I would say, and I think what you're trying to get across as well, is perhaps that women are a bit more sensitive emotionally. And that is, of course, also tied into their hormones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about, like, men are quite linear creatures, and yes, you do have some differences with the, the andropause and stuff that men have come. And I think that is going to get talked about a lot more. Like menopause has started to get talked about now a lot more, whereas andropause isn't so much. But I think that's going to be the next thing. And because I do think men need to talk about it, because it is something that is real and physical and there. With menopause, it's women are, like I say, a lot more complicated, a lot more fine tuning required. And our so men's hormone system's very kind of linear. Women's, we've got this cycle that's going up and down every month. It's like an ebb and flow, like the tide coming in, the tide going out. And that's just a regular pattern that we have throughout of our lives. And then as this starts to stop and it starts to stutter and then eventually heading in towards a stop, obviously that's what creates a lot of problems for women further down the line. But like we always say, like menopause it causes so, and I don't want to like underestimate what it does do to some women, but I know for me, the more that I've got in touch with my body, the more that I've worked on the energetic body as well as the physical body, the easier that transition has become. And I'm in my 50s now, and right in the midst of it all. And it's like menopause problems are common, but they're not normal. And it's like becoming normalized that you have all these problems. And I think a lot of things get blamed on it. Not to underestimate what a lot of women are going through, but it does create it is like becoming a thing to blame everything else on, when actually, if you're looking at things like what you're eating, how much are you moving, are you getting enough sleep, are you actually looking after your stress levels, are you breathing properly? Those things can play a massive amount in kind of regulating the hormones and making the transition a lot easier.
Yeah, one of the things that, I obviously, as I'm sure you know, most of my listeners know, I work with people regularly that have acne. And one of the things that comes up in conversation a lot with women is birth control pills. Because quite often what I've tended to see is that if a woman goes to a medical doctor and says, look, I've got acne, the first thing, just go on this pill. That will sort your acne. Yeah. That's the end of the discussion. There's no, okay, so what are you eating at the moment? Are you hydrated? What's your gut microbiome like? How much toxin exposure have you got? What chemicals do you put on your skin? What cleaning products do you use? No, just shut off the normal hormonal system. And then when you feel like you might want babies, you can just stop taking it and everything's going to be fine. Right? But I don't know if you've got any views on, because obviously I know you've been talking about menopause, and obviously the birth control pill is for women, 10, 20, 30 years younger. Have you got any views on that at all? Catherine had always been fit and active when she suffered a debilitating back injury. She was barely able to get out of bed or walk without being in excruciating pain. She visited her GP, who prescribed anti-inflammatories, painkillers, and muscle relaxants, and also referred her to an orthopedic consultant. Catherine was bedridden for 10 days and subsequently could only get through the day with large doses of the prescribed pills. Catherine was diagnosed with a prolapsed disc at L3-4, and she was offered anaesthetic injections or spinal surgery. She was horrified and concerned that she would have constant back problems for the rest of her life. Catherine was miserable, could hardly drive, a day at work was agony, and any movements in bed were very painful. I carried out detailed postural assessments, muscle strength tests, and analysis of her movement patterns. I identified the biomechanical problems and prescribed a very specific exercise program to correct her posture, reduce her level of pain, and to prevent the injury reoccurring. After 5 weeks on the program, the pain had reduced hugely in her back, and Catherine stopped taking painkillers. After 10 weeks, Catherine was back jogging and doing more intensive exercise with absolutely no back pain, and she was so pleased that she was able to pick up her young son again. If you're suffering like Catherine was, and you'd like to find out more about getting to the root cause of your back pain, go to www.bodycheck.co.uk and request a consultation. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, well, obviously the menopause is sometimes they do medicate it with HRT. It's becoming kind of like a thing where every woman should be on it. And I think that's going down a very dangerous route as well, because it is medicalizing a natural process. I'm not saying that if you need it, that you shouldn't have it, but the research is still really, it's really strong on that. You should, if you need HRT, then you go on it as soon as you can and you get off it as soon as you can. So you know, before there's lots of people now saying that you should be on it for like till you die. And, you know, it makes me wonder how like the human race has survived before this. You know, my gran, they've told you, was 90 without any HRT. So it's like, you know, and they're saying you're not meant to live this long and la, 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 and all of these things. But I just think, listen to your body really, and really get in touch with your body. And do you actually need it? Like for me, I can't have anything messing with my hormones at all. It just really affects my skin. Like, as you know, I've got eczema as well, and anything like that, it always affects my skin. But as I think, get on it if you need it, and then get off it as quickly as you can, because like I say, it's the cherry on the cake if you've tried everything else. If you know that you're well hydrated, you know you're eating well, you know that you're doing your exercise, you know you're getting enough sleep, you're doing all of those things, and still you've got problems, then maybe look at it. But I think a lot of people just forget about all that other stuff and go straight onto HRT to alleviate the problems, when actually they could just be needing to drink more water or get more sleep, you know. And it's that society's going that way, isn't it? You know, we just want a pill to fix the thing, rather than looking at what our lifestyle is actually leading to. And there's so many unhealthy people out there that, you know, just think about, you know, there's that levels of responsibility as well. And I think if you've done everything that you know you've done everything, then fine, then try it and see if that makes a difference. But also, I think that people are expecting it to make a massive difference to their health and put them back where they were. And it doesn't work like that. And I think that I've got a couple of GPs who come to my classes, and I always say to them, are you actually on HRT? And like, neither of them are, which I think is really interesting. And yeah, they both said that if they can get away without it for as long as possible, they don't want it, especially because they've seen it ebb and flow, like everything, you know, like everybody at one point was meant to be on HRT. It was the greatest thing ever. Then they found out it could cause breast cancer, and they had a big scare, so everybody came off it. And then now we're going back to it. Everybody's going back on it again. But I think people forget that it is a drug, isn't it? It's a pharmaceutical. So
yeah. I mean, there is obviously bioidentical hormone therapies as well, which aren't synthetic. And, you know, my understanding is they don't have that causation towards cancer like the synthetic ones do. But that's a whole nother podcast, and I've done a few podcasts on that. But just coming back to my original question, so in terms of what you see as the major drivers to women's back pain, we've kind of mentioned kind of like mental, emotional trauma or baggage, whatever you want to call it. Is there anything on top of that, or was that the kind of the key difference between like a male and a female?
So yeah, the main causes for women's back pain are things like that. It's more coming from internal rather than external, and yeah, it's definitely more around stress management, keeping everything flowing. Flow is the key word for women, I think, rather than stuckness and tightness. And it's like try to get out there. And I think a lot of women feel when they get to midlife as well, and maybe they don't realize this, but they're really restricted, and they are the sandwich generation, as in sometimes we've got like, younger kids, the teenagers that rely on us. We've also got older family, our parents that start to rely on us. So we're in the middle trying to hold it all together, plus working full time. They said that we could have it all, didn't they? And it's like something's got to give somewhere along the line. That's not the way it is. And usually it is the spine and keeping the spine healthy. It's like, you and I know it's like your antennae to the universal energy, right? So it's like, there's so much else that shuts down. It's like that energy system that is just getting shut down. And if we can open it and get it healthy again, there's so much more that comes from that than just like being free of pain.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's kind of obvious in terms of, the difference in males and females when it comes to back pain. So obviously men don't get pregnant and men don't give birth, right? Which, both those things are very traumatic to that lumbar sacral region, right? So I'm sure you would agree that that's obviously another major factor in back pain in women, obviously, that have had children.
Yeah, definitely. Pelvic floor, being able to keep the strength. Well, it's not just about strength in the pelvic floor as well. It's about pelvic floor should be able to be toned. I think tone is a better word than strength, because it's not one of those muscles that can be strong. It's tone and relaxation. And I think a lot of people actually try to create that tone because that's what you're told afterwards, after you've had a baby. And that kind of makes sense to us in our heads, in our logical brains, that, okay, it's been really overstretched. We need to now tone it up and get it like tight and strong. But actually a pelvic floor, a fully working and adaptable pelvic floor should be able to tone when it needs to, and it should also be able to relax when it needs to. And a lot of other women that I work with have got over tone in the pelvic floor and they can't relax it. It never relaxes. So again, that causes tension through the lumbar spine and into the pelvis, which again, yes, you're right, causes back pain.
Yeah, and interestingly, looping back again, also, if you've got, hypertonicity or too much tension in the pelvic floor muscles, that can also be from a mental emotional trauma as well. So it all links together, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's that kind of protection. We think we've got to hold everything in, we've got to pull everything up, but doing that also squeezes the bladder, so it makes the bladder sitting there not being able to get full because it's getting squeezed all the time, which then causes that incontinence. A lot of women think that they're getting stress incontinence because everything's too weak, but sometimes it's just because it's hypertensive, like what you've said. So yeah, it's all linked.
So we've spoken a little bit about emotional trauma. We've spoken a little bit about, I guess, biomechanics. What other factors might influence pain in the pelvic or lumbar region? Hey Rebels, I'm briefly interrupting this episode to share some really exciting news with you. As of this month, July, I will be releasing an extra No Punches Pulled episode every month with an amazing and almost certainly controversial guest who's not scared to put their head above the parapet. These guests will be exposing lies and corruption, sharing their stories of being gaslit or cancelled for telling the truth, and offering real-world solutions to achieving optimal health and maintaining freedom amidst increasing censorship and restrictive regulations. These are the types of episodes I started producing back in 2022, for which I was cancelled on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and deplatformed from LinkedIn. These additional episodes will be for subscribers only. For the equivalent of one takeaway coffee per month, you can become a paid subscriber and receive exclusive access to content the authorities don't want you to hear. I really hope you can support the podcast to help it continue, and also help me to bring you even better, more controversial, educational, and inspiring guests. Subscribing to the Radical Health Rebel podcast is a much more productive investment than supporting organizations that feed you lies, propaganda, and predictive programming like TV licensing, cable, satellite, and major film streaming services. Subscribing to the Radical Health Rebel podcast to receive premium content couldn't be simpler. Just go to the show notes, click on support the show, and follow the instructions. In fact, why not do it right now? And once you've subscribed, come straight back and listen to the rest of this episode. So for the equivalent of just one takeaway coffee per month, let's rebel against the mainstream narrative and create a healthier, fairer, and freer world together. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your support.
Not breathing correctly, bad posture. So breath, let's take breath first. There's a really strong link between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. So if you are, and posture is also linked to that as well. So if you're sitting with bad posture, your diaphragm is never being able to move in the correct way up and down. So you're not getting that kind of like massage, that massage effect on the organs. And there should be a reactive relationship between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, which gets switched off as soon as you bend into bad posture. So posture is really important, and breathing correctly is really important as well. So getting that nice full deep belly breath so the diaphragm can drop down, and then as the diaphragm lifts up as you exhale, it should be kind of a tension created in the pelvic floor because the whole unit lifts. And then as you inhale it, and then exhale, it lifts, and then inhale, it drops. So there should be that nice unit lifting up and down as the diaphragm lifts up and down. And a lot of people have got that all disconnected, or have we call it twisted breath pattern, where you breathe I can't do it because I've spent so long not to do it, but it's when let me try and see if I can do it. Breathe in. Yeah, when they breathe in, their belly comes in instead of out. Oh. And then as you breathe out, your belly goes out. It's so surprising how many people have that pattern, though. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when people come to me the first time, I would say 90% of people have that dysfunctional breathing pattern.
Yeah. And it's that, and of course, as you know, and the breath is obviously connected strongly to the fight or flight response, which if you're not breathing correctly, then your body's in a complete stress response because oxygen is its main source of fuel. And it's quite stressful for the body not to be breathing correctly. So when that happens, you've got that tension that's created because the nervous system's in fight or flight, which then shuts down the pelvic floor. The research has shown that in women, the first two muscles to react when under stress are the upper traps in the neck and the pelvic floor. It's that tightening of everything. And so if those are constantly switched on, you're going to have neck pain and you're going to have back pain.
And one of the things that you've mentioned a little bit is the organs. Do they have more of a role to play as well when it comes to pain in that lumbopelvic region?
Yes, well, the response, the nervous system, it has got a name, Lee. You'll have to remind us. It's called a vasosomatic response, where the nerves. So if there's a pain, if there's a problem in the liver, for example, the nerve will go into the viscerosomatic
reflex.
That's the one. Yes. So yes, definitely. In regards to gut health as well, like if your gut health plays a massive role in back pain too, because if you've not got that nice flow through system, then that's going to create problems in the stomach area, in the intestines, in the bowels. The bowels have the viscosomatic response into the lower back as well. So any of those things that the organs can be signaling that there is a problem. It might not just be back pain. It could be anything really. But yeah, it's really important to make sure that you just thinking about all these other things as well, like gut health is massive for back pain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's true for any organ in that abdominal cavity that, if there's an issue with that organ, whether it's disease, whether it's inflamed, whatever it might be, as you said, it's going to create a viscerosomatic reflex, which is basically a nerve impulse going from the organ to the brain to say, look, there's an issue down here. The brain needs to do something, right? So then the brain generally tends to send a motor signal back down to the same level of the spinal cord, which then innervates whichever muscle is on that level. So, quite often it can be an abdominal muscle, right? And oftentimes it's the slow twitch muscle fibers in particular, because they have a lower threshold to stimulation. And it's those muscles, in particular muscle fibers, that stabilize the spine. And what that message tends to do, it tells those muscles to not contract or to become inhibited. So now you've got a lumbar spine, or any part of the spine of that level, from the spinal cord, that's not contracting. It's not stabilizing that segment of the spine. So now you've got more chance of creating some kind of micro trauma. And over time, if that micro trauma gets bad enough, then you might end up with, that might be a disc bulge, it might be irritation of the facet joint, it might end up as being a spinal fracture, all because there was a problem with an organ and someone went to the medical doctor and they gave them painkillers, right? Which is not going to solve the problem of an inflamed organ. And it's probably something they're eating, or some toxin in their environment, or a combination of a number of things, right? And again, to look at it from the holistic point of view, we also know that emotions get stored in organs as well. Right? Yeah. As an example, we know the liver, according to Chinese medicine, is the organ of anger. It holds on to anger, as an example. So again, someone could have back pain because they're holding on to anger, but unless you look at the body holistically, you're never going to fix the problem.
Absolutely. And that's like the lungs hold on to grief. So if you've got grief, then that could be a problem. That's maybe why you're not breathing properly. So yeah, there's all those emotional things that can manifest themselves in your body. And until you actually take a proper look at it and actually realize it's a whole integrated system. It's really interesting. And what I was going to say as well, of course, with women's pelvic areas, organs, then the medical system just wants to cut them out, don't they? So like people have hysterectomies, and even like a hysterectomy, the word hyster is like hysterical, because that's what the same root is like, because they thought women were going hysterical because this organ was creating this like frenzied state around them, so it should be cut out. And we've still got this kind of a Victorian system of like, right, yeah, you've got a problem there, let's just cut it out. And often there's a really like our brains and ovaries have been talking to each other since we were teenagers, and they continue to talk to each other. There's a big nervous system energy coming through from the brain to the ovaries, and when that organ just gets cut out, like the brain's still sending signals there, and there's nothing happening, and nothing's being returned, and that can cause a lot of problems as well. It's just like it's a massive to cut out a woman's womb.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the opposite with men, because the men's gonads just take over the brain.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you think about the womb, like I find it such a fascinating organ. Like it's where, like if you just think about the womb for a moment, it's where like life enters the world. Like it's that energetic portal, and they just think, cut that out, and it's like, what? That's why I've got a portal to life inside of me.
Yeah, it's great. It's crazy, isn't it? That that the medical establishment just looks at the body as, something goes wrong, well, let's cut it out.
Yeah,
which is lazy. It's lazy, isn't it? Because, again, going back to what we've been talking about this whole conversation, if there's an issue, well, let's find out what's causing it.
Yeah.
Rather than, well, let's cut it out, then it won't be a problem anymore. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Why is it a problem?
The analogy that's often used is, if you've got a symptom in the body, it's like when your engine warning light comes on the dashboard of your car, right?
Yeah.
Well, cutting out someone's womb is like taking your car to the mechanic because your engine warning lights come on, and they cut the wire going to the bulb that lights up on your dashboard. But the problem is the engine. But they say, oh yeah, that light's come on. Let's cut the wire to the light. Right? That's how intelligent that kind of, madness is, really.
It is. And when you think about it, it is madness. But then I don't know, how do you get people into like our way of working with things in a very holistic way, and that there's a lot more to it than just the mechanics of just put that light on.
I do think, well, the answer to that is education, right? And that's what we do, right? As podcasters, as clinicians, that's what we do. We educate people. I don't see any other way. I mean, and again, we both know there's people who aren't ready to hear the message, and that's fine. They can go and have things cut off their body. That's their decision, and they've chosen that life, right? And we can't help those people. But people that are ready to hear the truth, the message, and people that are truly here to achieve as much as they can whilst they're in this lifetime, at some point in their life, they're going to be ready to hear the message. So for me, it's all about education and getting as much information out there as possible. And, I know you certainly, give it your best shot. I give it my best shot. And there's thousands of people like us as well trying to get the message out. So I think that's the solution.
Yeah. Just keep beating the drum.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about your book. So if someone was to buy the book, you can see my acne book over my shoulder, right? Someone said to me, tell me about your book. I'd say, right, in chapter 1 is this, in chapter 2 it's this, in chapter 3, and I could go all through 9 chapters and explain it. So can you take us on a little journey of kind of how you put the book together and what's in it?
Yeah.
Amina was a 32-year-old personal trainer and mother of 3 when she came to see me. Amina, whilst training to run a marathon, experienced lower back pain and sciatica. Amina's back pain meant that she couldn't run without pain and had completed her last marathon in a disappointing time for her. Amina wanted to complete a half marathon in under 1 hour 50 minutes, eliminate her back pain, and get back to running full distance marathons. I devised a corrective exercise program for Amina to realign her postural imbalances and help improve her stability, which she completed for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. After working with me for a few months, Amina completed a half marathon in 1 hour 45 minutes, beating her target time by 5 minutes, and now she has no lower back pain or sciatica. Amina has since gone on to complete several full-distance marathons, finishing with good times. If you'd like to achieve similar results to Amina, you can contact me at www.bodycheck.co.uk to secure your consultation. Now, back to the podcast.
Definitely. So my book started off as a book about pain and about how can we live with pain, how there's stress. And then I started talking about, so it was going to be a micro book first, and then it kind of grew as these things do when you start writing them. And I was like, okay. And I was like, what was the main problems that I find with women? And it was this back pain, pelvic pain, and those things. So then I actually really delved into the research around back and pelvic pain for women, like I say, and it's all like, it's not what we've been told before by the medical system. It's not that we're too overweight and sedentary. It's actually much more to do with the bladder, the breath, and the bowels. So I started writing about that. Then I thought, there's a lot more to it. There's even more to this. And so I started talking about sleep, and the holistic things that we teach anyway. So it's got sleep, gut health, nutrition. So those kind of things as well. Then I carried on, kept going, and I started talking about the energetics, so the chakra system. If you have got a problem down in your pelvis, it could well be the root chakra system. That's, the energy's not right. Could be due to financial worries, your tribe, your community, all of those things. So we go into the chakra system. We also go into the archetypes. So what archetype are you in? Saboteur? Are you in victim? All of those kind of things, like who's actually driving the carriage. And then I also, to go with the book, so when you buy the book, you also get a 6-week program of videos. There's a QR code in there that you can zap with your phone, and you get a video a week from me about like the actual doing the exercises and in what order to do the habits to start building up some good little habits that you can do that make, as we know, like little changes over time can make big changes. So it's just like adding those little things in, drip feeding them in as you go over a 6-week program. And then, of course, if you like that, by then you should be kind of being able to take some stock of where you are. And then you can either join me for classes or join my other program, which is Wisdom Well. So it's kind of like an ongoing system.
So if someone was to buy your book, go through all the 6 weeks, what would be the desired outcome?
The desired outcome would be that they would be much more in touch with their body, much more embodied. It's called the Embodied Core, much more able to think about, is this pain something that I've triggered somewhere along the line? You know, you've got your triggers and your glimmers. Like the glimmers are like bits where you think, oh, actually, I feel really good today. We often focus on the things that when it's bad, but also like really focusing in on, what have I eaten? Have I slept well? Those things that you might not have thought about that link to your pain. So you've got a much more better map of how you can manage your pain in a much better way, and also gentle. It's very much a gateway in very gentle exercises, like right back to basics, just starting with breathing correctly, gentle pelvic tilting, that kind of thing, to start to actually, you know, make some changes. I've written this book for the absolute beginner who really wants to learn about holistic health.
And I guess, you know, if they're in pain as well, right? If someone's in pain, there'd be a good place to start.
Absolutely. I've written it for the person in pain, really, because it's just the simple things that you can really start to do right away. Like right away today, you could say, right, have I drank enough water? And things like that make a massive difference to your back pain.
Yeah.
Just drinking water alone can like improve your pain, like almost instantly, you know? So it's like little things that you can do on a daily basis that will help you in the long run. And it's not like spending loads of money on, you know, supplements or expensive gym memberships. It's stuff that you can do in your house right here, right now. That's what I'm interested in. How can you just make some little positive changes that can take you from being without hope, thinking this is going to be it for the rest of my life, I've got no chance to make any improvements, to actually thinking, shifting your mindset a bit, flipping the coin and just thinking, actually, you know, there is some stuff that I can do.
Yeah, it's interesting that, again, the medical model tends to look at most pain as a one-way street. And what I mean by that is it's never going to get any better, right? There's no coming back from this, or you're going to have to just take medication for the rest of your life. Or, you know, as you mentioned, let's just cut it out, right? You know, and I know, and you know, I've been doing injury rehabilitation for 23 years now. You know, it rarely ever, if ever, is a one-way street. There's always a way back, as long as you establish what the root cause is and address that. The other thing I just want to mention, so you were talking about drinking water. I remember going back a long time now, the lady came to see me for initial consultation, and I think she was going on holiday, or she couldn't start for 4 weeks. I can't remember the reason, but she said, look, I can't start for 4 weeks. She said, is there anything I can do in the meantime? Right. So she kind of said it as she was leaving, right? Literally walking out the door. And I said something like, make sure you're drinking 1.5 to 2 liters of good quality water every day. And 4 weeks later, I get a phone call from her saying, I don't need to start your program. My back pain's completely gone. You know, how simple was that? I mean, I should have charged her really. I solved the back pain, but you know, it saved her a bit of money anyway. But it just shows you how simple it can be, right?
Exactly.
The human body is very complex, but sometimes the solutions are very simple when you know what those solutions can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I've written this book from. Just taking like all of the knowledge and the learnings and teachings and experience that I've had with working with real people in the real world. And just like, I find for me, the closer I get back to nature, the healthier I become. And it's like, actually, you don't need all these toxic things to put on your skin or in your body and all these like other stuff. Just drink enough water, get enough sleep. All of these things just seem so simple and obvious, but sometimes you need somebody to say, look, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not drinking enough water. That will help you to actually manage your pain like 99% better. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you know, it comes back to, you know, what we teach at the Czech Institute. You've got to take care of your 4 doctors and you've got to have the 6 foundation principles in place. Without those, forget it. No point. Absolutely. No point doing anything else unless you're, you know, it's a medical emergency. Then those things probably aren't going to help you anyway. We're talking about chronic, long-term issues, right?
Yeah.
If you break a leg, drinking a glass of water and going to bed earlier is not going to get the job done. But for any chronic condition, you know, you've got to be looking after, you know, your thoughts, your breathing, your hydration, your nutrition, your movement, and your sleep and rest. They're the non-negotiables.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are so powerful. And the more that we get back to whenever I'm having you know, if I'm having a flare up of my skin or something and I'm thinking, oh no, you know, you do go into that thought pattern of like, oh God, I don't know what I've done. And it's just like, yeah, keeping the mindset strong, keeping the thoughts good and just knowing that everything ebbs and flows. Life is ebbing and flowing all the time. And it's not about just getting, it's not about being able to not ebb and flow because that is life. It's about becoming a ninja at the ebbing and flowing and knowing that better days are coming, get back and stay connected, stay consistent, and everything will be okay. It's, you know, you will get back to homeostasis. That's what our body's trying to do all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's next for you, Jill?
What's next? Well, I have launched my Wisdom Well, which is an fully online program, which is kind of deeper than the book. So the book is the start and entry point. But then if you really enjoyed that, then we're going much deeper. I've got my lunar lifting program inside the Wisdom Well, which is an easy lifting program for women. Well, men could do it as well, but women. And it's literally 6 minutes a day. You can do this program and it's having great results. I've already had one lady who's improved her incontinence by in 6 weeks. So just shows the power of getting strong. But it's also, you have a live with me every month and we've done things like gut health, ultra processed foods. So we have a physical thing, but also like a spiritual, maybe like an archetype, a goddess per month that we channel in. And yeah, so it's kind of like dealing with all of the things rather than just, and some people will just take the physical and that's absolutely fine if that's where they are. Some people are all there for the spiritual stuff as well, which is great. It's just about taking what you need for your journey and just knowing that it is your journey and you trust the process and listening to your body and really getting to know yourself and know your shadows as well, and know when the saboteur's turning up and know when you've gone into victim mode and those kind of things, because just bringing awareness to those things can really help to make you understand that that's where you are right now, but you can make those changes. Awareness is the first form of change, right? So become aware is when you can start to make changes. So it's all about just really becoming aware of you and your body and really embodying embodiment practices.
Awesome. And where can people find you, and where can people find your book online?
Yeah, so my website is www.organicpilates.co.uk, and you can find my book is on the first page on there, and it'll have the links for Amazon, and you can also buy it direct from me from my website. And on Instagram, Organic Pilates, and on Facebook, Organic Pilates and Breathwork, I think it is. Yeah, Organic Pilates and Breathwork on Instagram, Organic Pilates and Holistic Health on Facebook.
Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for your time. It's really good being on the other side of the microphone for once. So it's been
scared of you, Lee, so I'm not scared of you anymore now.
I'm such a scary person. I have to.
No, you're not scared.
But thanks for your time. It's been really, really good chatting as always. And I'm just praying that people on the other side of the pond actually understood your accent. And if they didn't, they won't hear me saying this anyway, because I would have logged off a long time ago.
There's a lot of famous people from the Northeast. So
Sting,
Mark Knopfler,
my doppelganger.
Yeah, your doppelganger. And what's the lead singer of AC/DC? Brian Johnson.
That's true. Awesome.
They all talk like me.
They do indeed. Awesome. So that's all from Jill and me for this week. Don't forget to join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.